Okay, so this is the story of Digital Extremes by NOCLIP. It's a 2-part documentary. It's pretty long, so we'll try to make it through. There we go. All right. Crowdfunded video game documentaries. Ooh. Oh my god! Something about this is... Oh? This is so professional. Like, I wasn't expecting...
I still remember the first time I played Warframe. I just treated myself to a launch day PlayStation 4, and during a break playing FIFA or Killzone Shadowfall or something, I wandered onto the PlayStation Store just to see what else was available. And it was then that I came across this curious-looking free-to-play game.
I wasn't quite sure what to make of Warframe, to be honest. I had
Robots
no
in
idea
space.
It was made by the studio responsible for one of my favorite games ever, Unreal Tournament. I had no idea that it was a game that Digital Extremes had been trying to release in some form or another for over a decade. And I certainly didn't realize that this curious little free-to-play game was the studio's last chance at survival.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Warframe's been out for 5 years now on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and of course PC.
And now it's been 12 years.
In fact, it spent most of its time on the PC in Steam's top 10 most concurrent players chart. But it's also a game that a lot of people know absolutely
It's still top like 20.
About. So we thought, what better candidate
2025
for a NOCLIP retrospective than the remarkable story of Digital Extremes and Warframe. This story starts 3 decades ago in the Great White North.
Oh, Canada. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, it is freezing. Oh god, I would do anything to never go to Canada. Why is it so fucking cold up there? Oh my god.
Grade 9 all the way through to the end of university, I always had in my head that I would do games just in my spare time as a hobby.
I like
it was always a hobby in my head. I wasn't getting into a real job in games, so I kind of put that out of my head. But yeah, I'd made games all throughout university. I went to university for mechanical engineering and expected to go into mechanical engineering.
Schmaltz.
And one of the little games I was making
That's a name.
Through university, I got published in this little kind of magazine disc thing called Big Blue Disc.
Look, this looks so sick. What is this, some kind of Band-Aid?
You'd see it on the magazine shelves. You know, come out monthly.
Wait, okay, this is ancient. This is 1986 making games? Oh my god.
And I was just looking around for something to do with my game that I finished, which is kind of a cool little game. And I sent it to them, and they paid me my $1,200 for the rights to do that. And so I was amazed that I actually made a little bit of money from this tiny little game. And so
this is like a game distributed on a floppy disk. My guy is next level. How did you do this?
It's kind of the first stepping stone to get it to the professional and actually
Commodore 64 looking.
Coming in.
What was the game?
It was called Legends of Murder. You can search
Legends
it online
of Murder.
I think it's on somewhere.
Fantastic title.
Legends of Murder.
I was just playing it a couple months ago. Right. You can download it somewhere, and it's it's funny little game. I still thought at that point it would be a hobby and I thought it'd be fantastic if I could make a little bit of extra income from that. And so as I was finishing
$1,200
Star Trek at the
is
time,
so much money back then.
And then
it's like $80 million today. Do the math.
I just loved this idea in my mind of combining those two things, and I ended up making this game called Solar Winds, which was just finishing up as I was graduating university.
1992.
And right around that time, I knew this game was a little bit bigger,
art?
a little bit more interesting, a little bit more viable as a real product. And so I remember playing Hugo's House of Horrors, which was a shareware game at the time.
It's like $20 trillion.
I physically wrote an actual letter to David Gray. I do believe his name is. I can't believe I remember that.
Wow.
And I sent the letter off to him. I asked, can people make money from shareware because you're giving it away for free? And he wrote back and he told me about CompuServe. There's a good online area where people discuss games and shareware and stuff like that. And he said, yeah, some people make a few bucks and some people make $1 million. And of course that, my mind exploded. And I think from there, that's where I got on CompuServe, and I found out about Apogee and Epic Games.
The thing is, you only have to make like $2 in 1999. And that was pretty much, if you do the math, it's like $3 million today.
I met Mark Rain, and the first game ended up being published by Epic Mega Games at the time.
Epic Mega Games.
$1,200 a month from Solar Winds. And
He retired.
I was like working on my next game. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go from $1,200 a month to $2,400 a month.
Oh my
And I
God.
can actually live reasonable on that. And so it was exciting.
Down
time,
payment
and I
on
just loved
house.
the work.
Don't fact
And
me. It used
the
to be
game that came
$1.
After that was Epic Pinball, and so
They had it so easy.
as I was making, I was like, okay, this is good.
Epic
This
Pinball.
It's my best yet. It's going really well, and so
Oh shit, it is pretty
really
good
quite,
looking.
Excited about it, thinking, yeah, maybe I'll make more than $2,400 a month. Maybe I'll make $3,000. It's like in my mind, oh my God, $4,000 a month. That would be living in luxury. And of course, it comes out, and it was a monster. Like for individual, for one person making, it was a monster hit. And it just, I just remember my first check was like $50,000. So
Holy shit! This guy is Bezos.
it was, yeah, it was a whole new world.
$50,000. That's like $80 quadrillion.
The upward climb.
Oh my God! You guys are 5 minutes in. No wonder why Warframe doesn't want to make money by not monetizing their game well.
By the time James had finished his
That's so
marathon
funny.
of work on Epic Pinball, he was pretty tired of making pinball games. But Epic Mega Games, the game's publisher, knew that a sequel would be wonderful business. James pushed back,
Pinball
saying
4,
he didn't have
Pinball
the creative
8.
energy to work on
Think
another
about it, think about
pinball
it.
game. So Epic suggested that he hire some people to do the work for him. This was the foundation of Digital Extremes.
Why should I make the game? I hire man, make game. Man hire man, make game. Man who hired man to make game, get money, and guy who make game, make least money. This is the way.
And the first game for the team, Extreme Pinball, was another hit. While James's new team was working on pinball, he was
I'm
taking his
dying of
first steps
Extreme.
into 3D game design. And it's through this that a
And so it
decade-long
begins.
collaboration with Epic would begin.
Wait, okay, so this guy, the company hired a guy to make a game, and the guy who was hired to make a game hired someone else to make the game. But what if the guy who was hired by the guy who was hired to make the game by the game studio hired another guy to make the game? Holy shit. We can go all the way down. Soon no one will make money.
5 months left go.
Mr. Attack, if you will. Ooh, this looks really good.
Today we
And this
often
music's
associate
good.
this franchise with Epic Games, but the original games were born out of a tight collaboration between the two studios. Between the two, they were around 16 people working collaboratively on the project. During the
Oh my God.
development of Unreal, the Epic team traveled to London, Ontario to work on the game, while the team at Digital Extremes traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina, where Epic is still based, to
Raleigh?
work on UT99.
Is it not
As
Riley?
intense as Unreal was,
I don't
and,
know.
and hard, and really just trying to ship a
I
game.
can't read.
Unreal Tournament was, I think, felt
Hmm.
more creative and a little less pressure, but that allowed us to make even a better game, I think. At that point, so my
Hmm.
programming contribution went down, and I think I focused more on the art and weapon. I can proudly say I think all the
Probably a
weapon
lot of team
designs are
management.
mine for the
No,
most
really?
part. So.
Yeah,
What are some
telling
of your
people
favorite
what to
weapons
do.
from
Oh, the
UT?
flat cannon's always been my favorite. I was very happy with how that one turned out.
Did you put
Ooh.
the smiley face at the end
I
of
did.
the alt fire?
I did.
Oh,
Do you know
it's
that,
so
I'm not sure
demented.
if this story's ever been told. We were all
Smile,
in North
bitch.
Carolina, and we were coming back from
I love
lunch
North Carolina. It's pretty.
somewhere, and we walked past a church called the Redeemer. It's like,
The
hey,
Holy
that's a great
Redeemer.
name for the big guy. So
Pilotable nuclear
There's a
weapons.
Yes.
ton. There's a ton of churches down south called the Redeemer, Holy Redeemer, the Trinity Redeemer. You just walk past any church and it's probably called Redeemer.
Church.
yes,
Great.
I know Cliff had a lot of input in
Make
the
churches.
weapons as well, but we wanted something that was more than just basic shooting. Combining the alt fires to add an extra layer of skill on top. So we're always
Ooh.
looking for a way to.
He just saved
add
him.
that,
Knocked him in.
You know, you shoot the weapon in its basic form and you can do well, but if you have that extra skill and you can do the combos or whatever, that there's an
This
extra
music
layer
is
of
so
skill that's
good.
kind of built
Is
on
this from the
top of
game?
weapons. So that was definitely the intention, as much as we possibly could.
Do you have any favorite maps from that original 99 one?
Facing Worlds, Cedric's map was definitely one of our favorites that we played in the office. There's a lot of really good ones. I like Deck 16 was awesome. It was Nisha's map that was very memorable.
On Championship, pretty much everything. I worked on weapons and progression. I'm a programmer. was how I got my job here. So I
Okay,
programmed
so like
weapons, I
basically,
programmed game modes,
the team who made this this little thing, which is really a huge classic, Steve. Wait, was his name Steve?
ran bots, bombing.
No
runs,
fucking
all
way,
those
this
kind of
is- he's a
things.
CEO
I remember
now?
one time when we moved
Steve, my
offices, we had to have
man.
an electrician come in, and he had to come in late.
I've
I was the only
seen
one in
you.
the office, so I let him in. And he said, so you make video
know-
games here? And
I
said,
know
yeah,
this
yeah.
guy.
He said, whoa, any video game I might have heard of?
It's
And I'm
your
like,
child.
Yeah, you know, Unreal Tournament,
Dave.
Tournament 2003. He said, oh yeah, you know.
So this was
I
7
really
years
wanted to
ago,
like that
so
Unreal Tournament 2003.
things
but
have
you
really
replace a
changed.
sniper rifle with that god-awful lightning gun. And I'm like, yep, that was me.
After UT99, the teams continued to collaborate, working on
I did
Unreal
that.
Championship for consoles and Unreal Tournament 2003. But by the time UT 2004
2003.
came around, collaborating remotely became much
Dude.
more difficult.
Look, oh my god, look at this. This is so 2005. Look at this. The hairstyle, something about this. Oh my god.
As both studios
Everyone
had
has
grown
jeans.
so much. It was during this period that Epic and Digital Extremes almost
2000s.
merged. But the idea was scrapped once they realized the Canadian government
Oh my
would require a
God.
sizable tax payment up front. And so instead,
bunch of
like college
bros.
roommates after the last day of class, Digital Extremes and Epic Games went down their own different paths.
Oh no! Oh, I mean, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, because it got us.
After the release of Unreal Tournament 3, Epic would go on to partner with Microsoft Studios to create the Gears of War franchise. And Digital Extremes had a big idea of their own. A
Gears of
sci-fi
War, eh?
action MMO they were calling Dark Sector. They poured their creative energy into this project, hoping it would be the key to a new era for the studio.
I fucking love robots.
And in fact, it was. But instead of sending them down the path of creating an entirely new franchise for them to own, the demo kept securing them work-for-hire projects.
So yeah, the old DE that I worked at made some cool Unreal games with Epic, and then we hit the pitch circuit. Right, here's our idea for games. You know, we tried to make this.
We want to
crazy
make our own
sci-fi
game now. So they've been making games for people. They're basically making these games. People are asking them to make the games. They're like, all right, my turn to make a game we want to make. And my guess is that the big studio with the money is going to be like, our money, our game, we make a game, you make our game that we want.
That was called Dark Sector.
Oh,
that
UT99
wasn't
was,
the Dark
oh, it's
Sector that
D's game.
shipped.
Okay.
And that was, I remember that was living out of a suitcase for 6 months, traveling Europe and West Coast with a tech demo in a cube PC. You walk in, you show this tech demo, and they say, this is awesome. This is
Oh,
great.
love it. We can't do
How would you
this.
like to make the sequel to this game instead? Right? So,
No.
you know,
Oh, I
that
love
wasn't
it. I love
really-
it. No.
I mean, it was very
no.
creatively upsetting and kind of soul destroying because you're putting everything into this.
Guys, I love it. I love the energy you're bringing to the table. I think this looks amazing. I just think that if you made this game instead, we have something going. Shake on it.
But it got us work. Publishers have their franchises and they want to build on that. And so
It's gonna be a long, good relationship.
Work for hire. Work for hire is we're going to pay you a lot to grow an extreme amount to your breaking limit, so that you have all these people to take care of with their families, their mortgages, and their hopes and dreams. We're going to pay you just enough to get to the end of the project. You better pray it earns out so you can get your royalties back.
If I look back on my career, it was probably
This industry
my
sucks.
biggest personal mistake was to, you know, we had some good money coming in. We weren't that big. We were quite successful. But we had our eye on, like, you know, let's make something like the next Halo, like something huge, right? Because the games are at that point were getting bigger and bigger. And that was
Yeah.
exciting to us. And we wanted to be, you know, AAA, huge, biggest games. And
Oh, you guys want to be biggest games ever? Cool. Do you need a database administrator? Do you need Oracle, Rack, R-Man? Oh, let me tell you, I'm your girl. sunnyexplosion@gmail.com.
so we'd come up with a demo or pitching ideas to publishers looking to use their money to make some product. And it
Our
was
product.
Definitely a challenge that went on with us for many, many years, looking for those for that product of our own. When possibly the
Oh,
best,
man.
better decision at the time would be to have been taken our own money and made our own small little product that was fully funded ourselves. That wasn't wasn't striving to be that big, massive blockbuster.
That's an idea. I don't think it's a bad idea to dream big. It seems like you guys have been making the blockbusters already. SAP is better than Oracle. I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you. Anyway.
But that's your own money. It's more risky. You could...
More risky, but then you have full control over it, because it's just when you're doing a work for hire
Me getting passionate over the shitty database
so
administration.
They want,
database tools I use.
Maybe you never know exactly what they want, or they don't know what they want. And if you look at our history and most independent studios' history, when they have full control, complete control over the product they're making, which often only comes if you're funding it yourself, you will make a better product.
SAP is trash. It's just Excel with extra steps. So long as it's not like a SAP is in my blood. My whole family works with or for SAP. Really? Can you give them my resume? So long as it's not like a Microsoft mini database product, it'll be fine.
For over a
Did you say
decade,
good
Digital
paper?
Extremes would work predominantly in the cutthroat world of work
true.
for hire. What many studios do when they're in this situation is scale up for projects and then conduct widespread layoffs afterwards. But James was from the area, and Digital Extremes was the only studio in town. His employees had roots, families, friends, mortgage payments. So him and the team did anything they could to keep contracts coming through the door. What this meant was that their dark sector idea kept getting kicked down the road while the team worked to keep the lights on. The studio partnered with Toronto-based Groove Games on Unreal Engine shooter Pariah and its sequel of sorts, Warpath. They
Never
took a
heard of
contract to
these.
help create the PlayStation 3 port of BioShock, all the while shipping
that's kinda
around
cool.
their dark sector game.
So basically, they're taking money from people who already have funding, already got funding to make their games real, and then they go to them and they're like, "Can you make this part?" They make the part. They're getting paid enough money to keep the lights on, but for them to make Dark Sector, they don't actually have the funding to do it, so they can't do it.
We had this idea, what would Metal Gear and like the Dark Crystal be if you put them together?
Oh my god, that's the sexiest thing I've ever heard somebody say.
So of course there would be like anime energy tentacles coming out of people's heads. There would be really cool robots.
Oh, the
But the metal
atmosphere.
would be organic and changing. You know, we had a
Skeksis.
lot of ideas. Science fiction that wasn't necessarily just like James Cameron science fiction. We wanted maybe some Frank Herbert science fiction. So we had these kind of ideas, and I went off and wrote a whole bunch of stuff about these
this is so
characters.
cool.
And the artists, you know, Mike Brennan designed these beautiful,
John Tenno.
kind of very interesting
To think that the Dark Crystal was part of their inspiration.
enemies.
Oh
and
my
him
God.
And Jeff, you know, worked on the original kind of what became our Excalibur suit.
Jeff.
And we went
Jeff
around,
Tenno. Shit, I didn't mean to
pitched
pause.
it, and this was kind of when Halo was sort of a thing starting to emerge. But every publisher said no one likes sci-fi, and they won't sell consistently every time.
No one likes sci-fi? Developer makes shitty sci-fi game 10 times in a row. Shitty sci-fi game 1 through 10 sells really shitty. And they're just like, fuck, I guess it's sci-fi. Oh, this is one of the original... Oh my god.
So the Tenno, which is the good guys, send in our boy. Here he is, Hayden Tenno, looking nice in his ancient Excalibur armor suit.
Excalibur!
All right, so there he is, and this is the perspective of our game. It's sort of an over-the-shoulder mixed third-person, first-person type control scheme. We've got on the left analog stick, we have move and strafe, like you might have in a game like Halo. And on the
Poor Halo,
right
rest
stick,
in peace.
we've got
Sorry
look,
that happened to you.
aim. So we see the suit at all times, but we have essentially what is a first-person control scheme.
Back then, you were really beholden to publishers to get your games out. There wasn't digital distribution. You know, you needed to get your game onto a retail shelf.
Oh, wow,
and
that's so true.
To do that was really expensive.
I never
And
thought about
there was
that.
no way for kind of independent developers to be able to foot that bill. You know, you have to manufacture a certain amount even to get onto store shelves, and you have to pay all of that up front. along with, you know, the licensing fees that come with that. And being an independent developer up until about, I'd say 5 to 7 years ago was really difficult.
I never thought about the fact that you need, oh, don't worry, I am not looking at, I am like reading the subtitles like I am completely inept because reading helps me. I didn't even think about the fact that the discs, of course, their manufacture is a big part of like the cost.
I mean, you talk to any kind of mid-sized developer, even these days, I think it's and especially back then, it was a
Where did
huge
my wine go?
challenge because the
Unfortunate.
games were becoming bigger and bigger. And the mid-sized games, it was really even more hit or miss if they were to even gain any traction in retail.
As that runway
Oh my
was
God,
running
Hayden
out,
Tenno is
and
Hayden
I was getting
Sexo.
desperate, and we were getting
I like his
chained by
makeup.
publishers. You know, one publisher said, well, we don't like the hero, he's too feminine, can he have an eye patch? Like literally crazy things like that. It was getting so close to signing, but just wasn't, and it was dragging on and dragging on.
Being
so I did
beggar
we did a pivot.
choosery.
We said, oh, it's gonna be, okay, those sci-fi stuff, fine, okay, so it's gonna be
No
more
sci-fi
like
stuff?
Resident Evil than it is gonna be like, you know, Dark Crystal in space. So we
What?
kind of made these compromises in order to land the deal, and we did.
The Dark Sector
Oh.
that was eventually released looks almost nothing like the original pitch video. They took off the protagonist's mask. Instead of being a space soldier, he was now part of the CIA. It played less like Metal
Too feminine with his muscles and his crazy space armor.
Gear and more like Resident Evil 4 or Gears of War. But they did keep the name, Hayden Tenno, a term they'd use again in the future. Dark Sector received above average reviews when it was launched in March of 2008, but it came out in a tough market as it was an incredibly popular time for third-person action games.
Flailed around for a while trying to find its footing and find what the actual gameplay was and how we integrated the glaive with the gunplay and the cover system that was in existing games like, you know, like Gears was inspiration.
2008, did you say?
Something a little bit better, a little bit more fluid.
I mean, that's the difference between what the publisher at the time
recession.
wanted with the game. They wanted something that was more grounded and more kind of set in reality that people can relate to.
I don't want to relate to my games. My life is fucking boring. Give me something crazy. I want to feel crazy when I play your games. I feel like crazy is becoming my fucking my tagline. It's a Nyx skin. Oh, shoot. So this just wasn't what they wanted to make. They finally got to make the game they wanted to make, and they didn't get to make the game. That sucks.
Digital Extreme's Dark Sector project hadn't gone exactly the way they wanted to, but at the very least it had been competitive at market. Plus, the team had another game out the door.
They continued doing work for hire gigs. They developed the multiplayer for BioShock 2 and Homefront. They designed The Darkness 2 for 2K and secured a contract to make the video game for an upcoming Star Trek movie. But
damn, they made so many games.
the squeeze on mid-tier games was getting worse and worse for publishers. Rising development costs meant that the revenue
That looked really
required to
good.
make each of these games a financial success was rising with each year. Digital Extremes found themselves caught in the crossfire.
Well, I think a lot of publishers moved all that stuff internally, and you know, that mid-tier developer, you know, I think we saw the writing on the wall is those
Disappearing.
pitches and those
It's
things
cheaper
were
to-
harder to do,
just
and
bring them
the
all on
quality bar
board.
that the publisher required and the risks they were willing to take were they weren't willing to take them anymore. So it was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to figure out something else.
You know,
I imagine adapting to the video game industry must be a fucking hell. Steve! But like, can you imagine? Like, this is an industry that changes rapidly. Like, tech changes rapidly, but this is a pretty rapid. This is rapid. I mean, like, people want something new. And the way that, I mean, it's just such a competitive, this is the entertainment industry. It's so competitive. I mean, you have to adapt to survive all the time. It looks like this was only working for like 5 years.
Star Trek's ramping
maybe
down rather, and
6,
and
7,
soon,
8 years?
You know, there won't be any more milestone payments coming in to keep the lights on. This other project that we had started that we thought was going to get greenlit, that publisher had a bad quarter and are now doing everything in-house. You know, like these are literally things happen.
It was a very challenging time, and it was definitely hard to get to work with a publisher to get those real, potentially high quality products funded, because there was so much at stake. like to compete, you need to put more money in them. And then at that time, we're looking at free to play, and we heard amazing things about some of
What happened to the pinball money?
I mean, World of Tanks is the most perfect example. They did phenomenal. I don't know what the budget was, but it clearly wasn't like $100 million budget to ship that out the door. And we love the idea of the fact that, you know, you can initially ship something smaller, and we'd seen this in a few other games, and then grow beyond there. So
who the fuck is playing World of Tanks? My friend Pickle plays World of Tanks because he just loves World War II and stuff. But I'm like, who the fuck else is playing World of Tanks? The thing is, I've sponsored games like this, all of Eastern Europe, and I play them, and I'm like, there's too much polish on these games for this to have like under hundreds of thousands of active players. These games have way too much in them. People that love leaking government secrets, dude, no. War Thunder. Like, men love World of Warships. I played that game. It's never been easier to matchmake in those games. You have like 10 people in the game. I press enter and I'm in the game. It was crazy. I'm like, this is the most active game ever. Who's playing these?
So it really seemed really appealing to us, that concept where you could try something out, see if the fans like it, and then grow as needed.
You know, the inspiration was, can we make something small? I mean, back the clock up 2 years, that would have been an XBLA game, right? Right. But XBLA didn't seem to be landing the hits that maybe independent developers like we were hoping it would.
Riot
And
Games
so that
creates
seemed
League
like,
of
okay, well,
Legends.
here's another option. My interest was
the rest of the world catches on fire.
You know, free to play, let's bilk the players, right? My interest
Bilk.
was, well, the scope of that sounds like something we could do with how much we have left. And it better work, because that's it.
Was it scary, the idea that, like, because you're not swimming in
completely. It was our last, it was a Hail Mary. It was like, it really was.
How close to closing were you guys, or how close to
Yummy
bankruptcy?
bilk.
Yeah, really close, really close. Yeah, I can tell that story. It was pretty, it was super close. We knew that this was our last chance.
Well, it seems like, honestly, then, it seems like doing the other video game work, like the for hire, where you're saying they're giving you a fuck ton of money, doesn't sound like they were giving you a fuck ton of money. If, like, you can't have a quarter with, like, not insane amount of work, and you're, like, bankruptcy faced, then it just sounds like the work was shit to begin. Obviously, I don't know. But if it was that close, when it got like a little bit of a dip, I'm like, damn.
And we had a couple $1 million extra, like, to do this with.
What the fuck? How many people did you have? Maybe it was really good.
We studied all the games out there. A couple, like a game called Drakensang, which I really enjoyed at the time, and World of Tanks.
I guess $1 million. I guess a couple $2 million. Like, okay, devs make a lot of money, so maybe like 30 people, like couple, maybe 2 year salary. So you're right.
Heroes, I think, had done all right. So we're looking at anything out there that looked like it was sustaining itself. I told Steve and the guys, you know, you got 12 months. That's it. There's like nothing but 12 months.
Make a product.
We had tried to make a version of Dark Sector multiple times. We had made this kind of weird MMO prototype using Unreal, and we had kind of servers and you could jump between them, and it was kind of starting to feel almost like, you know, it was very precursor. The original Planet side was
so they have foundations to work with.
Coming out, and we're like, oh man, and World War II Online, like people were starting to make these kind of action games, but with an MMO context. We were really attracted to that.
Steve had always thought of a Dark Sector sequel where we go back to the Space Ninja demo that we had done. And
Is
he's
this like
thinking
a Warframe
a small
text?
space pirate raid. So we'd kind of do randomly generated
I'm like rocking
ships.
my chair.
You'd raid these ships, get loot, and come back.
Loot.
With that original idea of his, you know, he kind of thought of it as a small, maybe like PSN or
Planet
Xbox
side.
Live
Never heard
game
of
type
this.
thing that we just never really had the
Operating
opportunity
cost,
to do.
yeah.
So when we were thinking about
You had
going
400
into
developers?
the free-to-play,
Oh,
this
shit.
seemed like a really good,
I thought this was
small,
like a tiny studio. My
tangible
bad.
demo that we could make, and it was, for us, it was like this thing we really loved that we really never got to execute on.
a few of us went to James and said, okay, we think we can do this really fast if it's this and it's small scope. And we think that co-op is not as served as it gives us an opportunity not to be kind of going against the giants.
The team had a round of layoffs, but they were still 250 people large. Steve was put in charge of a small group, around a dozen people, who put together the demo for this new free-to-play game. Taking ideas as early as the original 2000s Dark Sector MMO, and much of the gameplay and visuals from their failed 2005 pitch of Dark Sector, they put together a demo of their spaceship raiding game in just under 2 months. Then Stephen Meredith went back on the road to try and
This is a Frankenstein.
This game to free-to-play publishers looking for any sort of cash injection to help them keep the lights on.
And
oh
we
my
had
God.
the largest free-to-play.
You know what's funny? What the fucking... They will never remove these vents, will they? Look at the vents on the fucking floor. It's the same thing today, is that no matter where you are, a vent will just drop on the floor. Like, where are you venting in from?
Help them keep the lights on.
And we had the largest free-to-play publishers in the world. The
they
richest.
love that.
You know, I don't need to name them, but you can just like Google, who's the richest? Here they come. And they walked in and they said,
Nixon.
this is great. I can't believe
Maple
this.
Story.
What an exciting meeting. I'm so good. And in slow motion, and the record needle scratch because it was sci-fi.
Right.
And they just walked in.
As soon as they saw that it was PvE and sci-fi, it was, yeah. And we were
man.
like, what?
I mean, at that same time, I remember one of those guys that came to the studio, they did the tour, they looked at what we'd been building.
It's weird.
And his reaction was interesting. It was, this is the best looking free-to-play game I've ever seen. You will fail.
This is so, because like, what the fuck has these developers, these investors, what has twisted their fucking testes, my guy? Why won't they invest in a game that has sci-fi in it? Look at what we like. What are some? I can't think of. When I'm thinking of popular like IPs, I'm literally like, I literally just think sci-fi. Star Wars filling the market? What's like, I can't think of a Star Wars game, but I'm like, okay, Star Wars shows demand. What other sci-fi IPs at this time are probably going strong? Warhammer 40K has been popular since the 80s. Investment is risk, so they're only, like, there's just, it's very early for sci-fi. Halo is happening, Star Wars Old Republic. I remember, yeah, that multiplayer online Star Wars game that my brothers would play like it was like a crack cocaine. Mass Effect. What was their issue? I mean, like, it just seems like sci-fi was it. Dead Space, Mass Effect, Gears of War, maybe. And I'm like, it was at its absolute prime. So maybe it was like, because it couldn't have been that every investor was like, sci-fi, that's gonna fail. Because look at what was doing good. The sci-fi, it's just, I don't understand it. Obviously, like, I didn't exist. I was, I was in, like, middle school I was in high school in 2011. So it's like, I don't know the market, but this is just weird. It strikes me as weird.
Dave and I just looked at each other. Oh, kill me now. So why are we going to fail? Well, because the game can't look this good and update as often as you need to build your community. And of course, that was like branded on my ass, like frequent, fast updates. How are we going to do this? So a lot of early tech in Warframe, like the procedural levels and that sort of stuff, completely geared to that kind of idea of frequent updating. Those publishers didn't bite. And so it was...
That's it. Guys, I'm going to bite. I'm going back in time and I'm going to invest in to be popular game Warframe. They should have pitched to me. 14-year-old me would have been like, in an instant, you can take my lunch money.
Can we make money before the end of the year? And
what do you need?
So 9 months
$5? You need $10 even?
When the team tried to make the original Dark Sector, the need to get a publisher influenced that game dramatically. But this time, Digital Extremes didn't have time to retool the game for publisher needs. And frankly, they didn't want to. They knew what type of project they were making. A free-to-play Space Ninja game they were currently calling Lotus. But what they didn't know was whether or not this game would be enough to help save the company.
This project was a massive shot in the dark. Not only had the team never made a free-to-play game before, but this game was going to be responsible for keeping a studio of 250 people afloat while they scrambled to look for more work-for-hire gigs.
Light work, no reaction.
What actually transpired wouldn't only shock and surprise DE, but the entire video games world.
If I eat, is that annoying?
Series, we take a look at the remarkable story of Warframe.
Oh, okay.
See you then.
Just okay, end of the video. So far, this is crazy. This NOCLIP, because this is this guy needs to make a follow-up, because this is not where this ends. Where's my part 3? Because this is 7 years old. This guy has me hooked. Okay, so after the first half of this documentary, we're finally at the creation of Warframe. Okay, let's continue this. Girls gotta eat. Spend so much time eating.
So, the elephant in the room, at least for those of you who have never played it, what exactly is Warframe?
At its heart, Warframe is a loot shooter. You play short levels really fast to gather items that help you unlock new Warframes. These Warframes are varied around combat and elemental themes, allowing you to use entirely different powers, weapons, and ways of movement. Some are melee-centric, others utilize magnesis, electronics, or spores. One Bard class plays music to buff other players, music that can be written using an in-game sequencer. You can play single-player or co-op. There's a PvP component, an open world area, clans, a story, customizable pets, frames, ships, and loads more.
There's a lot of stuff.
Today is strange and varied, a bizarre game built atop the foundations of a very different experience.
Now, I bet even what we were seeing there, I mean, it's probably so different today from even this. So what we're going to see, the foundation is probably going to be unrecognizable.
So to understand the game as
it's a very complicated game.
We must first go back to that early prototype, to a Digital Extremes that had 9 months to make a free-to-play experience that might just save the company.
9 months?
So our company was
just 1 year.
Focused on finishing up publisher stuff, pitching new stuff, things that were getting canceled, stuff like that. It was kind of imploding, right? There's no fault of the people that worked on those things. I mean, the ebb and flow of the economy, a publisher has a bad quarter. Who's the first to go? Well, the contractors, and that's us. So that 9 months was trying to build as many of the beginning Warframes as possible so that we could have, you know, a minimum set, and then trying to invent an infrastructure for this kind of so-called back-end, because we have MMO-light features, account persistence. None of that
now we have to make the game.
stuff we had any understanding. Building all the stuff you need for independence. You have to make your own website now. You have to make your own, you know, customer support portal. How do you accept payments from people when you sell them a founder's pack? How do you get certification to take credit cards from people?
Cash only.
It was really
I need to be paid in cash or pounds of oysters.
a lot of like back-end infrastructure and database
Oysters
stuff.
need to be
All
mailed
those
to this address.
dentist, right? You know, scrambled to make as much of that kind of procedural level stuff that we could do to support, you know, people interested.
Minimum viable product. It was the smallest thing we could put out that people could play, that people get an idea what we're trying to do. And slowly we've bolted on parts and added things to it. And I think that's how we treat everything in the game.
This interface, somebody said it looked out of date. It's like unrecognizable. Oh my god. V Prime? E-Gate? This might still be in the game, but it just looks so different that I can't tell. It's a pre-alpha map.
Don't worry about it.
This is the UI, remember?
It's good enough for 1.0. Ship it.
Okay. Just have to have a product. Wake up, John Tenno.
My name is Rebecca Ford, and my current job title is Live Ops and Community Director.
Current job title. What was your first job title?
Community, no, I think it was just intern.
Okay.
Mom!
So that actually is true. Intern.
Mom!
I started my internship in January of 2011.
Cool.
I love her
Had you
hair.
ever worked in the industry before?
I was still in third year of university.
I love her shirt.
So I sort of just came and never left.
Did you finish university?
I did.
Okay.
I did. No one ever asked for proof, but I did. When I first
Trust
started,
me,
we
source.
were finishing The Darkness 2, so that was just sort of at the tail end of development, and I didn't have a role in any of that really. I just kind of came to the
it's been a
studio
while.
and figured where I could help. So I was doing like launch parties for the products and just general office things, stuck
That
around.
man
and
looked
then
a little bit like
Warframe
sex.
really started becoming a
Personified?
reality in early 2012, so to like just mentally, and then it really hit the ground in around July, and I knew at that point that this would have been an opportunity, and luckily the people that I worked with felt the same way, so they were like, yes, this will need community support, and I was like, yes, I will do this. So
I see a game. Listen to me. I see a game needs some maybe community support. I got this. I got your community support right here. And they're like, okay.
So pre-Warframe, was there a community team?
no.
Okay. And when did you figure out that, oh shit, we need a community team?
Probably
Free-to-play
when we
game,
realized we were going to do
more
it all
players.
ourselves. Not only do we need
Oh,
community,
yeah.
we probably need to support these people. So I started the support community forums, all that stuff. I
Wow.
think we were so, I don't want to use the word desperate.
Oil
but I'm kind
tycoonist
of
me,
going to.
yeah.
We were so desperate for this to work that we
That's
wanted
me.
to be in the thick of it as this alpha phase was happening. So we wanted to see what the problems were, where the issues, appeared to happen for the game, for the bugs, for all these things. And it really just had us glued to our communication outlets, which would have been the forums at the time exclusively, just watching.
Me being like, why didn't you guys make a Discord? Doesn't exist yet. It's Skype.
Rebecca joined the team and helped in any way she could, even going so far as to voice the character of the Lotus, Warframe's space mom, who guides the player throughout their time in the game. The closed alpha was launched and the team kept a watchful gaze on feedback. Through emails and forum posts, they zeroed in on what bugs they needed to fix, what powers felt imbalanced, all while adding in new meshes for the Warframes. Warframe needed satisfied players, because if this project was going to work, it needed to start supporting the small team that was developing it. They drew inspiration from the success that many niche games were having on Kickstarter and decided to put out a founders package for the game. This package would include a bunch of the game's currency, platinum, along with exclusive equipment, forum badges, Warframe sigils, and keys to the upcoming beta. The team had never sold in-game items before, so they had no idea if anyone was going to buy them.
I can kind of like put my finger on the most optimistic I'd felt, which was when we started our founders program, which was sort of our own Kickstarter version of the game, which was basically you can become a founder of Warframe, and that means that you'll sort of have meant it was successful if it turns out to be that way. And I remember watching real time as the first Grandmaster founder purchase came through, and at that point that was someone spending $250 to support Warframe for what it was at the time.
Ooh, $250 is, you know what, me about to be like $250, but you guys, every time you guys donate 50 gift subs or gift 50 subs, that's $250. So yeah, the person really believed in that game. I guess you guys really believe in me.
That was like the moment when I realized people care about this game as much as us.
And I remember running into the office in November and right into the middle
wait a
of the
second.
programmer
I do want to just say $250, of course, this is 2012. That was like $10,000 today.
And I remember
maybe even
running
like
into the office
50,000.
in November and right into the middle of the
Don't look it
programmer
up.
meeting. They're all talking about problems. And I just burst in the door. We made $1,500 yesterday. And they looked at me. I mean, it's not enough to pay them, right? That's not enough to keep the lights on. But my God, the look of shock on their face that people would actually pay for Warframe. They were astounded.
Yeah, it was crazy. And what really at that time was the most scary was doing free to play.
That's 6. They only sold 6 of them on the drop day. They sold 6 that's 250 McChickens. That's true back then. Oh, that's a lot of money. Sunny inflation index. I'm probably underestimating.
And doing it wrong, because we were doing it wrong early on. We were selling power. No customization to speak of really at the time. We didn't have a lot at the time, except a fun, free, downloadable game that you could shoot and be a ninja in.
That's honestly a lot.
Warframe is a game that many consider to be fair free to play, but that wasn't always the case. As the game moved into closed beta, it had a supercharged system that allowed players to double the capacity of their gear. But there was no in-game way of unlocking this system. It was only available if you used real-world cash to unlock it, meaning those who were willing to spend could effectively be double the power of those who weren't.
Oh,
The
ew!
reason I don't like the Warframe here leveling up is if I go into this, there's nothing else to do because I need this upgrade, Orokin Reactor, and without it, I can't take this Warframe any further.
Oh!
But you've got to use, real money to do that.
We come back to the studio, I think on...
Cosmetics take time to design. So they probably just didn't have time. They probably knew, this is like 2013. So many free-to-play games already were doing cosmetics. They probably understood we need to make cosmetics. They probably just didn't have enough time in 9 months to create them.
January 10th, 2013, we took out the pay-to-win-ish things that we realized were horrible. This isn't, and we realized it because the community was like,
this
whether they
fucking
paid
sucks.
or not, they were hating this thing, and we were like, wow, this really is awful. So out it goes. 2013 starts off with the DNA now slightly, radiated to be fair free to play.
So what about the people who, like, what happens if you already bought it? Or is the game just like, oh, well, thanks? Or do they, like, refund you?
3 months away, the team was desperately trying to get attention from the press. But back in 2013, free-to-play was a term that lots of traditional gaming sites were staying clear of. The team was having trouble getting the word out to new players, but their communication with the community was beginning to create a lot of goodwill around this new IP. The growing buzz would eventually catch the attention of PC-focused YouTubers, and it was through that Warframe got its first big break into the mainstream gaming zeitgeist.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Warframe? Warframe is a free-to-play co-op third-person action game developed by Digital Extremes. They brought you games such as The Darkness 2, Dark Sector, and they were of course involved pretty heavily in Unreal Tournament and all manner of different things. They've had
in terms of the
I shouldn't have had wine tonight.
There was a before that video and an after that video. Like, no question in my mind. So,
oh my god!
So, and for me, like, that was very indicative of how important it is to reach this viewership and everything. I don't want to say that in like a needle finger, like, let's get the viewers.
Yeah, we need viewers.
That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say is people love looking
so
around and finding new sources of entertainment. So, YouTube is
like that stream. Oh
certainly
god.
potential involved in Warframe.
I want to see that video.
Definitely. It's a very high fidelity, obviously kind of AAA quality, free-to-play game. But it, I think, has a long way to go before it can really define itself as absolutely top tier and really have the content that's going to keep people playing for longer than a couple of days.
With more players coming through the door than ever before, the open beta launched on March of 2013, with 8 playable frames and hundreds of bug fixes, quality of life updates, and balance improvements. The team was...
Dude, I have like a mini panic attack if I have to fix more than like 1 or 2 bugs at a time. Then again, like, I'm bug fixing PL SQL in Oracle, but like hundreds? Ew.
Preparing to launch the game on Sony's new console, the PlayStation 4, but that wasn't going to market until November of that year, and free-to-play on consoles was an unproven market. At this stage, Warframe was only available through the basic web portal that the team had set up, so they realized it was probably about time that they turned on a certain valve.
We're now at this point where we can tread water and keep trying to build it.
A valve, you say.
But it was really tenuous. It felt go, no go, right? There's laws about if you need to lay people off, you have to give them a severance. And that comes out of this
is
reserve,
so fucked up.
Right? So
you have to pay them?
You are really going to screw people over if you go right to the limit. So, it was extremely nerve-wracking.
And it kind of got its feet
You should just be... If you let somebody go, they should just cease to exist.
Just as...
I'm kidding.
We were running out of money. And so it launched, and we saw it did well, And then it wasn't until we launched on Steam that we knew we were saved, because we knew leading up to the Steam launch, it was making enough money to sustain a small team, but we were 250 people.
It's a medium
so it's like
to big team.
It's like, okay, so let's turn on Steam and see how many people we can support. And we turned it on, and it jumped.
I remember every day I'd get up and I would check our rudimentary stats to see, you know, how much have we made for the previous day, with the hope that at some point it would be enough to maintain the team that we had on it, or at some point it would be enough to maintain the studio. I don't remember how many days it was that it wasn't. It felt like a really long time. But I really remember the day that we did. Like, I remember waking up in the morning, I'm yelling in the living room. My wife came out, she's just like, what's going on? I'm like, look, Warframes actually can support the studio.
Money, we made money, guys! Girl, we made enough money to support the team. And I mean, back then, and this is 2013, it probably needed like $5 to support this team of like 250. Inflation has been crazy. We're rich. Maybe $6. This is finally, okay, this is like the moment when free to play somehow worked out. And Steam was probably a huge part of this, because wait, what were they doing otherwise? What was the alternative? Selling hard copies of Warframe? Are you kidding me?
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, now the problem is not just survival.
Browser.
The problem is retention and keeping them coming back and growing the content. And we have one level in the game. Like, let's fix that. You know, that kind of thing.
Their own launcher.
A big shift, at least in my mind, was when the big Steam audience came.
Warframe was making money, a lot of money.
What is this? What is this footage? Don't tell me this is like servers. Why does it look like that?
Enough that for the first time in 2 decades, the specter of work for hire was no longer giving the executive team nightmares. But Digital Extremes had wandered into the problem that Steve had been warned about a year earlier.
I think it's testing.
How was this game going to retain people?
No. This has got to be some kind of joke. What's up with all these like HP towers stacked on top of each other? The heat. It's glitch testing. Okay, it's just so funny. The visual is so funny.
Problem that Steve had been warned about a year earlier. How was this game
Different
going
GPUs,
to retain
gotcha.
people? Free-to-play is a fickle beast, and while PvP games tend to keep people longer, PvE lives and dies on the amount of content available. Well, it turned out that the studio's biggest financial crutch, their large staff, was now their unfair advantage. Not only did they have 250 more people to work on the game now, but these weren't new hires brought in to help the game grow. These were veterans, folks who had made good video games, colleagues, friends, neighbours, people fighting not only for their livelihoods, but for their lives in London, Ontario. Digital Extremes had caught lightning in a bottle, and there was no way the team was going to let Warframe fail. They listened to the community and started adding new stuff immediately.
That year saw clans get added to the game, new Warframes are coming out, there's more places to play, and then we have our sights set on launching on PS4.
You know, we had very humble beginnings with this game. Like I said, it was going to be that kind of Space Ninjas raiding ships. You know, and then we kind of started to see that players liked hanging out in the game. So we started expanding, we started making custom tile sets for each of the enemy factions. We started like expanding the enemy faction types, putting tile sets on specific planets to kind of get a better sense of the solar system exploration.
You know, I just want to add something. As like a newer player, everyone was like, I was like, what's Warframe? They're like Space Ninjas. But I played Warframe and I'm like, there's like only a few frames that feel like ninjas. The rest of them just feel like so different. I just don't get ninja vibe from a lot of these guys.
That we kind of had lightly touched on.
I think certainly when we expanded our customization, that was a huge part of what made people like the game better, just at a visual level. When we redid the melee system and the parkour system, those
some of them just fly.
were particularly well received.
Feels like nature.
The movement in Warframe was originally pretty similar to most other third-person action games, running, jumping, and sliding. But a movement exploit known in the community as Zoran coptering allowed players to catapult their frames great distances. It fundamentally changed the way the game was played, but instead of nerfing this exploit, the team saw that the community was trying to tell them something.
You know, bullet jumping
we
was
like it.
Brought in a way to traverse levels quicker because players really loved what they called coptering, which was the movement was tied to the slide of a weapon. So certain weapons were really good at this because they had a very quick transition time, so they would fling you across the level. And some of these guys got insanely good and could basically traverse some of the biggest tiles in the game in basically one swing. And I was like, wow, it's kind of game breaking, but we love that they love the flow of that. So instead of just nerfing that and moving on and going, no, you can't do that, we kind of embraced it and brought it into the core gameplay, but in a more controllable way. Yeah. And I think that's kind of been the philosophy, is like the community latches onto things for a certain reason.
Yeah, if you see like a tutorial for coptering going viral, removing it is probably not the move.
Instead of just smacking their hands saying, no, that's not my vision.
You fucking idiot.
Like, how can we embrace that? And how can
Why are
we
you
bring
playing
that
my
into
game
the
like that? Why are you playing?
And not just remove it outright. For the core gameplay, I think it's been an evolution of things that the community has wanted, things that we've wanted, and the marrying of those two things.
Reading the reaction to the community has been critically important for the success of Warframe. Hotfixes would come sometimes 2-3 times a week, adding new content, fixing bugs, changing the user experience. This balancing act between adding new content and fixing issues the community has is a constant back and forth battle the team has struggled with, and they found that the revenue the game makes from in-game purchases can be matched to how popular the latest content drop is. The better the update, the more players play, the more money the game brings in.
So they're kind of like, they're going for a quality thing. Electronic trance music.
The hardest part about Warframe's life, I think, is the fact that it's clear from that data that Warframe needs to update to stay alive. The longer we don't update, the less people come check out the game, the less people stay in the game. So you have those two competing schools, stay in the game and come play the game. And then you have us, who has this 5-year, now 30 gigabyte behemoth that needs to be updated to stay alive.
Right.
So I know that you guys said there was a time, but before New War, there was like a 3-year gap of no content.
So how do you explain to someone that you've been talking to that, you know, we will fix your bug, but we also really need to add this new thing, or people won't come? And they're like, well, stop adding shit, you should fix it. And you're like, we have to do both.
I literally met an acquaintance I hadn't seen in a while.
Oh, COVID.
And he said, I tried playing your game. And I opened that screen with all the cards and I thought, I'm not smart enough to play
Cosmetics
this
still
game.
happen? Oh,
And
good.
I didn't play it anymore. Rafe Koster is one of my favorite game designers, and his book Theory of Fun is just like my go-to.
Book?
He wrote about how many times they changed the new player experience for Star Wars Galaxy.
Right.
I love books.
Did not affect their washout rate.
Really?
Yep. Here we redid it again. Nope, retention's not any better. We still have this many % of people load it up, play it for a bit, and never come back. And we've done the same, you know. We work on this and we try to fix those things. We get stats and numbers and we get data scientists. So.
Why do you think that is?
People are smart. They look at it, they see that complexity, they they smell that means this game is gonna take a lot of mental energy.
Damn, that is so fucking real. I think that is a huge barrier to entry in Warframe. And I think I don't know how you learn this game if you don't have a chat, but I don't know how you stay mentally sane if you actually read your chat. Because it's so much information.
You don't have to read Wikipedia if you want to min-max it.
You don't.
And they know I'm either in for that or I'm out for that. Does this Netflix series have 24 episodes or 10? Right? It's a big commitment to play Warframe.
It is. I still have no fucking idea what's going on. I have no idea. Genuinely. I don't know what Warframe is about. because I haven't finished the main quest, and I've played it for 50 hours. And I did not, like, casually play it. I pretty much was, up until the past couple of weeks, I was speed running the quests. And I am like, fuck. There's so much content. They're not saying, yeah.
The big parts of my job, which is how much time are we going to burn on a new player, and how much time are we going to give to that 1,000-hour player?
One way they've managed to keep that open communication with the player base was using the power of YouTube and Twitch. Rebecca started a popular developer Q&A stream from the office's canteen.
And we are ready to live stream our first dev Q&A.
That's such a good idea. What a great idea.
Hello,
Mirage,
everyone.
that was Mirage.
Welcome to DevStream 107.
Yay.
This is also our 5th anniversary of dev streams. We have been streaming since the end of February 2013. It is now 2018.
Oh my gosh.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. If you've tuned into all 107, then way to go.
Wait.
So if you've end of February.
Oh my god. Rebecca is a streamer. Rebecca has been streaming longer than me. I just had my 12-year anniversary in May. Oh, well, like a couple of weeks ago. Literally, Warframe is older than me as a content creator.
February 2013.
Rebecca.
Now 2018. So if you've...
That's not true.
Yeah,
I think of myself as the
all 107,
as the
then
old
way to
person.
Go. You've made it to more than all of us, I think.
They started an annual fan festival called TennoCon,
I am the old
where
streamer.
players of the game travel to London, Ontario to attend
Plus she's
panels,
mom.
hang out, and meet their fellow Tenno. They even created a way for fans to sell their own frames and weapon skins. This program, called TennoGen, has earned some members of the community enough money that they've been able to get off unemployment benefits. They have a partner program where they support 200 content creators who stream and upload videos about Warframe.
What? They have a partner program? Remember that time when I made League of Legends content for for Riot Games, and I got 50 million views across my content, and they didn't let me in the partner program, but they let like everyone else in. It was canceled, yeah. But remember when it's okay, so it's gone. But remember when they didn't let me in, and then they let everyone else in, and then just not me or Nikki Boy, and then they said they were gonna open up the program again in 2001, and then 2002, and then 2004, and then 2024, 2022, 2021, 2022, 2024, and then they didn't do that, and then they closed it. Ooh. Oh, I felt so supported by that company. Oh, they did fly me out one time to LA, which was pretty fun. So that was actually pretty cash money of them. I'm complaining. Why am I complaining? Because, well, is it not clear I'm an entitled bitch?
They have a weekly community show called Primetime, and two of Rebecca's community team
I just wanted to be able to
Megan
give away
and
skins.
Danielle, run console-specific streams every week. They use the Twitch Drops program, which enables players of the game to get free in-game goodies when they watch Warframe streams. Over the course of Warframe's life, this community has grown organically. Some play all year, some are newbies, others are returning veterans. But the cycle of players is always tied to new content. So to try and keep things fresh, every once in a while, the team throws a curveball.
What was happening was we were doing our routine, and Warframe's routine is great and it lasts. And
I love her necklace.
It has sometimes I think it has a saturation point of people needing a pivot for Warframe. So the 2 years prior, the pivot was cinematic quests, right? Came out of nowhere. No one was sitting there saying, I want a story that's going to surprise me. But they were saying, I'm bored. So how do you treat boredom with ambition, right? So you kind of have this repeated scenario where you can see your players are bored. They're asking for stuff. But what they're really saying is they're bored, right? And yes, you can deliver this feedback loop of, okay, we'll buff this Warframe, we'll change that, we'll change these missions. And that matters a shit ton. That matters so much.
But yeah, boredom is, you need a fundamental change. Boredom just means, boredom is like to me, boredom is like an emptiness in my mind, you know? Boredom is a video game sin. Yeah, it's like, there's this emptiness in my brain where it's like, You just need something fundamentally new.
Back loop of, okay, we'll buff this Warframe, we'll change that, we'll change these missions, and that matters a shit ton. That matters so much. But to treat the boredom at a different level, you need to shock and awe.
Right. Interesting. It's almost like the things you need to do are A, listen to your community, and B, not listen to your community.
Well,
give them something.
I'm saying, basically, take your vitamins every day, right? Like, you will be healthy, you will be happy. It's good for you, it's good for us. But sometimes you need a new flavor, right? So you're still trying to keep the maintenance up of this back and forth relationship, but you
do what they want while doing what they want that they don't know they want.
Need to change
things they verbally want and things they are not verbally they want.
A weapon week after week after week after week for the last 5 years, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Right.
What we did do was we continued to release those weapons, but we added cinematic quests. We added Arcwing. We added Lunaro, which turned out no one really plays, which is fine. You're allowed to make mistakes. That's cool, but you need to try.
One of the areas where the team needed to try a lot was the game's economy. The challenge of creating real-world payment shortcuts for the loot grind fell on the shoulders of Sheldon Carter, and it's a responsibility he doesn't take lightly.
The guiding tenet is try not to push them so that they're gonna, grind their face off to get something, but also give them enough variance so that getting those resources is interesting. Despite best intentions,
economy,
something where we need our community to tell us, hey, this is too hard. We had things with Kavats, one of the pets that came out. It was, too many scans. You had to scan wild Kavats in order to have enough scans in order to incubate a new baby Kavat. And it was just feedback from the community.
I can't scan anymore.
Is this what you wanted? Did you want us to spend 2 weeks on this? No, that's not what we...
Guys, why is the Warframe economy better than the United States economy?
We wanted you to do it. We want you to have to use the systems we have, but we don't
want you to
fox dog? Spend forever. Cat? When we first designed Kubros, or myself, when I first came up with the Kubro idea, we wanted people to be able to change the fur pattern and colors.
It's Canadian.
We had a lever, basically, for all intents and purposes. It was a button you could push, and it'd be like, oh, if you want to pay, I can't remember what it was, so much platinum, you can change the color. And then you could take an imprint of that, you could trade it to someone else. So it wasn't, we're trying to give you a way to you could get something cool and then you could give it to your friend. And we saw, a guy pulled the lever 200 times. And it's just oh my dear God, what have we done? We've made, we've created a slot machine.
Right.
And so, it was a couple days. I think it took us to take it out, a day and a half. That one is a big regret. Obviously, that was insanely profitable for someone to be doing that, but that's not what our design intent, and that's not what the intent of the game is. So that's why it was, that's why we changed it. When you're dealing with something that does have a kind of a cash component, you have to really be careful. Of course, that would be cool in a game where there was none of that, where you were just, putting in earned money into it.
Don't worry, guys. Bring me on. I'll be the soulless person to implement that for you. I will get my salary's worth and a lot more out of your player base. Hold on. So you guys don't worry. They're happy to do it. I'm kidding. Oh my God. Don't understand. No, hold on, guys. Don't listen to them. Don't fucking listen to them. Hold on. Slot machines, you say? So brave, Sonny. DE, here's the problem. You're a little too concerned about I guess the right thing. But the right thing should be your investor. Hold on.
But as soon as you put it as a premium currency.
I'm so kidding. Oh my God. You guys, hold on.
People can just go, oh.
She's a
what
corpus.
Can I get? Oh, I got the gold one. Amazing. How much can I sell that to other people for? And you're like, oh God, can't do that.
Can do that.
I've spent the past few months playing this game, watching YouTube videos, tuning into streams, all to try and get a sense of what exactly it is about Warframe that hooks people.
There's the moment-to-moment, the movement, the aiming, shooting,
live
the
in
inner
America.
loop. Then there's the outer loop of abilities, and then there's progression outside of that. But I don't think these
And I see
mechanics
that in my
alone
players.
account for why players find themselves attached to Warframe. I think a lot of it has to do with the bizarre universe that the game is set in. When the team originally designed this game, Mike Brennan, the lead artist at that time,
need to up the stakes.
didn't pull his sci-fi
Money's not
inspiration
enough.
from Hollywood. Instead, he looked towards Europe
Let
and
them
the
put their
work of
organs on the
acclaimed
line.
French cartoonist Mobius.
Ooh,
Then there's
this
the
looks
story
cool.
of this game, a mix of unfinished ideas Steve had that has evolved over the years. Then there's the movement of the game, which came from a weird bug. The lore of the game, the design of the biomes and tile sets, all of this came from ideas the team had later, built atop the humble foundations of that early prototype. What this all has led to is that the game looks and plays like no other video game.
Yeah, it's
Warframe
very
is a
unique.
weird-looking game. It's as beautiful as it is bizarre, and I think that's the surprise element
I don't think it looks
that hooks
weird.
Warframe players.
We do deliberately put a twist on everything we put into the game, whether it's even just as simple as the terminology.
Unique doesn't
we
mean
have scarves
weird.
in the games, but we don't want to call them scarves, call them sandanas. You know, and it's kind of the same thing with the way we approach the sci-fi angle. You know, we have our Corpus, who are kind of the heavy tech enemy faction, but you know, Steve did this really cool thing where he said, well, they're
The
kind
Corpus
of,
and I, we have an
really
understanding.
Kind of, they treat greed as a religion, you know, and that kind of is a really great inspiration for how you kind of
I'm so
visualize
sorry. This bit's going on.
You can kind of bring in. You can kind of get a bit wacky, as we like to say, with kind of the design of this. We don't really have a lot of
really good
restraint
world building,
for
yeah.
how far we push things in Warframe. It's
I will say that like I like the renaming of the scarves, but I don't like when a game is like everything is a new word. Like you can't. He doesn't walk. He grew poofs all across the room, and then like he jerks. My God. Make sure you jerk to the finish line.
really fun, actually.
He jerks.
And even down to like vocabulary.
They use it enough.
Like you don't just
It's
use
not
the word
overdone.
like cat for your like cat-looking.
No,
alien
it
cat.
could not be a cat.
Right.
It's a kavad, of course. That's one thing that we like try. Like there is no internal gospel of Warframe, but if there was, one version of it would have the entry of give everything a Warframe name.
Right.
Well,
and you can kind of see how that happened over time. Like early on, we had one of our amazing programmers naming our weapons. Like the sniper was just called the Snipetron.
A Snipetron. It's fine if it's a brand new concept of the game, but they're not redoing English.
And it still is. Like that's still in game.
The Snipetron?
Now you see, like,
Is it
names
still
that are
in?
appropriate for each faction, and like the Corpus names are Plasmor and like really sort of techie sounding, and then the Grineer ones are like the Stubba and the Stug and like just like more visceral sounding, and that was an evolved language dialect over time. I think it's a weird organic sci-fi world that is distinct to Warframe. Like that's it, and that art style definitely was the original draw for people to check it out, and it has been the reason that a lot of people stick around. And the uniqueness of each character and the level of customization of those characters, like these things are weird and they are good weird.
the thing that I really like about how it's evolved is
the good news is, guys, if there was anything to spoiler, I was moving my cat off of my wheel well so that I don't run her over, because that's where she likes to lay down.
It's a very
So I didn't see that part, but I heard it.
Yeah. You know, and it's a very divisive aesthetic. You know, you get people who love it. And I've seen comments where people, they try to play the game, but they can't get past the art. You know, and in a way I kind of prefer that. I like that we make a strong statement versus just being
What's wrong with the art?
A bit more vanilla.
I'm starting to figure out that
What
perhaps
can't they get
what
past?
looked like maybe a barrier to entry.
It
is
looks
also
too good.
maybe your,
It looks
like,
so good. I
unfair
can't do
advantage,
this.
Is that you have this very idiosyncratic or very unique world that once people are sort of in on, then they feel really they belong to it.
I think you're entirely correct. That is absolutely, because when we first started making Warframe, my background, as I mentioned, is more on the art side, and
too pretty.
My directive to the guys was make whatever you want. Like, let's just make sure we do the free-to-play right. You make what you're excited about. And so our art director is monumentally talented. He just wanted to make what he loved, and I'm seeing it as like, oh, like it's a little different. And then, but I'm like, yeah, do whatever you want. Do whatever makes you happy.
That's so weird, because I don't notice anything that looks really weird with this game. What am I like weird? Does this game look bad? It's a distinctive aesthetic. Yes, this game looks bad. They're just picky. Okay, I'm like trying to figure out what thing they're talking about.
Do
Abstract.
What you are passionate about.
Thank you for the
which is
hydrate.
a clear advantage, I think, for Warframe itself, is the passion of the team. Yeah, but I think you're right. In the end, it's different, and it's different enough that it appeals to a certain crowd, and they get in there, and that's the world, and it's a unique world.
Next time, if I ever make a game, I want it to look like every game ever.
Warframe's world continues to evolve. There are communities of players within the game who write wiki articles on how best to min-max your frames. There are communities of pet fanatics. There are speedrunners, lore enthusiasts. And of course, there are communities of people who just want to look good. The joke in the community is that since Warframe doesn't really have an end game, the end game is simply making the sickest looking frame you can. Something the community calls fashion framing. Last year, Warframe received its biggest update yet, the Plains of Eidolon. An open map for players to traverse, complete with quests to complete and mobs to kill. It's a wonderful step in an exciting new direction for Warframe.
2017.
Perhaps it's not a new direction. Perhaps it's a step back 18 years to an idea for an MMO called Dark Sector that never came to pass.
I think you could easily make a case for we're on Warframe 3. You know, if this was a traditional cycle, I'd say what was there in 1, the things that are there are you are the space station. But God, I mean, there's Tenno now. You can play out in open landscapes. It was a corridor shooter. You can fly around. You know, you were grounded. The amount of weapons. I mean, the game has just constantly evolved, and it still evolves.
What?
It's a lot of fly by the seat of our pants. It's a lot of like building the tracks as we're racing down, barreling, you know, towards it. You know, we have a destination in mind. When we're going to get there, we're not exactly sure, but there's definitely long-term goals, but a lot of the short-term stuff is kind of, you know, made up as we go.
It's not always an easy 5 years, and it's best 5 years of my life, no matter what. Like I'm not saying this is grim or anything, but to have a community that feels listened to is probably I feel like it's a part of my life that
it takes a lot of work too.
But I also understand that not everyone always feels listened to in every industry, in every game. And
I imagine Rebecca's job in being the community lead. Oh, God, I can't imagine. Like, if I can express, like, people can be really mean. Nowadays, not so much. But in 2013, I know game director, but I'm thinking community director on the internet when she was doing this in that time frame. Like, I got called insane stuff as like a little league YouTuber. I can't imagine.
It's really, you know, it's really something special that I hope we can continue.
HR, oh my God.
Warframe is what it was, and now it's grown.
Discord server didn't even happen until 2015.
Super compelling to the fans, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more of that
maybe
kind of stuff coming. So it'll be really interesting to see how the game evolves and what it becomes, because it's with so many people working on it, and with such an expandable concept for a game, an expandable premise, who knows where it could go, but it'll become bigger and really, really interesting.
The thing I'm most proud of with Warframe is the change, and is the castle built on those ruins. Like, we added fishing to the damn game, right? So we can get back almost to those feasible dreams we had with the MMO Warframe. What was called Dark Sector back then, but we can get back to those ideas and try kind of more weird things.
Yeah! Introspective music. Over 38 million people have played Warframe. Since the launch of Plains of Eidolon, the average concurrent players has broken 100K. We believe this accounts for around half of Warframe's concurrent players. Wait, where are the rest of the in 2014, Digital Extremes sold a majority of stake to 2 Chinese companies. No. One of those companies, Perfect World Entertainment, specializes in publishing free-to-play games. The studio no longer takes work for hire contracts. Yay! And once Tencent. Oh, boy. Oh, my God. This guy's got a Patreon with how many? Oh, my God. Oh my God. Okay, so if everybody is doing the lowest tier, This guy is getting $61,000 a month. $730,000 a year? Oh my. This is like, no one does the lowest tier, by the way. Also, this is like, I remember Patreon had like a little bit of a little workshop. They invited people. They still do this where they're like, you never want to do a 5, 10, and 20. You want to do like a 3, 7, and then like 18. Because people like see $10 and they're like, I don't want to do that. I don't know what's up with that, but it's apparently true. 60,000. Guys, I love to announce the production of my new gaming documentaries channel. Whoo! Oh my. If everyone did the bare minimum. Yeah. Damn, guys, so excited to be working on this new project. All right, what do we do when we like a video? We subscribe, we give it a like, we make sure we hit that, we fucking smash that like button, we hit the subscribe button. That was a good series. That was a good hour and a half of just good Warframe documentary. Holy ass.